why they don't like it. So that's how that goes. The reason I'm exhausted going first and leaving is I ran a panel today of six members of the House of Representatives talking about the issues coming before them and what's involved. So one of the reps, Eddie Day Paczynski, was talking about the school funding situation in his district, which involves Wilkes-Barre, where the students are getting, the school district's getting $5,000–6,000 a student, but the cyber charter school is getting over $10,000. And it's lots cheaper to educate a kid in cyber charter than it is brick and mortar. So of course he's complaining, he's very angry about this because with the extra money, they're buying land, they're paying their superintendents a $500,000 salary, which I certainly never found a way to earn that kind of money. And the other thing, so where it comes to our public policy is, and where this is relevant to judges, is our Supreme Court justices. In Pennsylvania, our Constitution gives us more rights than we have under the United States Constitution. And one of the rights that we have is equitable school funding, so that our poorer and rural districts are not continually disadvantaged. But of course, with this cyber charter thing, is bad. The guy that gets a lot of that money is a guy in Philly named Yaz. He turns around and puts that money into funding Republican candidates. So he didn't want the cybers audited, so he bought an auditor general. Yes. He's got $20 million invested in trying to defeat our retention judges. Now, if it's worth him putting that kind of money into it, it's worth you knowing why. Okay. We have the right to this funding because the Supreme Court judges, the sitting justices, put teeth in the laws. You know, the legislature passes the laws, but it's not really for sure until the judges have a whack to see, is this constitutional, is this hold up? You have to turn back on that a little bit. So they did that. Thanks to the work these justices did, we have an equal rights amendment in this state. You have a right to a clean environment in this state, and you have a right for unlike Texas, where Laurel's just returned, you have a right to fair districts to the extent that they can be drawn, because people tend to self-segregate. And so a lot of Democrats live in towns, a lot of Republicans live in more rural areas. It's very tricky. But the case that went to the Supreme Court, that, if you remember, those maps gave, out of 18 seats, 13 Republican, 5 Democrat. The court said, yeah, it's a purple state. That sounds good. And we ended up with maps that were 8-8. And with that, a couple of women, the 4 women Congress people got elected, where we'd only had 1 before. So it really makes a difference. Now, if a court puts that kind of teeth in laws, if you change those judges, those laws can be gutted, as we're seeing in Washington. So retention matters. Retention by law in this state is not supposed to be political. You've never heard of it being political before, except one time. Jake Corman and Du Bois put through the midnight pay raise, and you got to remember that one. Legislators don't like to vote themselves a pay raise because we tend to get irritated about that, and we tend to vote them out the next time. So they put through this automatic pay raise, which is still in effect. And they did it in a budget bill in the middle of the night, and we're going to get mad. So a guy in Harrisburg put a pink pig on top of his vehicle, drove around everywhere complaining. But the only one you could vote against that fall was a Supreme Court judge who had nothing to do with it. But he lost retention. Now, every retention election, about 30% of the people will vote no. Did they get up on the wrong side of the bed that morning? Are they mad at the world? We don't know why. It's some Democrats, some Republicans, some independents. There's no particular pattern to it, but this will happen. That means the no side only has to add 20%, where the yes side has to get the whole 50% to keep them, which is why we're going around trying to make sure everyone understands what's at stake. Now, should the sitting judges lose, those seats would be vacant. Theoretically, you got, Tom Kistler, Judge Kistler coming over here. We saw the League of Women Voters announcement come out today. And he's a senior judge in this county. So it'd be worth going to listen to him, but there's one thing where he's not got it correct because he's not political, which a judge is not supposed to be political, so good for him. But if these judges lose, he's saying the governor can't appoint a replacement. The governor can, but you'd have to get the Senate to agree. And that is not going to happen. So all those seats would sit vacant for 2 years until there's another election, which would jam everything up. Look at the Supreme Court. There's 7 seats. You lose 3, 2 Democrats, 2 Republicans. They have to agree on any case they take by a majority. What are the chances? So everything's gridlocked. There's also 69 county level judges up for retention this time, including Katie Oliver over here in Belfont. So, you could just completely gut the judicial system in Pennsylvania by not retaining them. And it's not supposed to be political, but there is a MAGA group who is making it political to try to vacate those seats. And you can fill in the rest for yourself. So if you could possibly tell everybody you know, we need you to vote this year. It's not going to be the sexiest election you ever saw, because the biggest jazz going around locally is the local school board, which is more important than people realize. Way more important than people realize, but that's the main thing. Go off at the top of the ballot, there's your judges. I'll send you the link. You can make up your own mind how you're going to do that. Down at the very bottom, reinforcing the idea that it's something different, are these retention elections. It won't say what county and party, it will say, shall Judge so-and-so, whatever the name is, be retained for an additional 10-year term on the whichever court it is? Yes or no? Just yes or no. We need to get people to go down to that ballot, the bottom of the ballot, and vote yes. Vote yes for all of them, because it's supposed to be a referendum on whether they've done a good job or not. Here's what happens when judges don't do a good job. The discipline board of the Bar Association has a whack. We lost a judge in this county 10 years ago. He was texting a lawyer on the beach. It was really not very good. So they said, you need to step down and we'll just let it go. Or if you keep running for retention, we'll need to bring it all out. Now, before the deadline, he was gone. So they'll take care of it. Then if you remember the Kids for Cash scandal up in the Lehigh Valley, those 2 judges were sending way too many kids to detention, etc., because they're getting a kickback. They went to jail. So if judges do the wrong thing, it will come out. There is no hint of scandal for any of the 5 judges who are up for retention statewide, nor for Katie Oliver. Everybody in this county tells me she's a fair judge. So what we're looking for is fair judges. But it happens that as AAUW members, as I told you before, the incumbents have been very helpful for our agenda. So by keeping them in office, we are advancing our causes. Does all this make sense? Yeah. Does anybody have any questions, Laura?
I know they're at this point nonpartisan, but are any of them nominally Republican as opposed to nominally Democrat?
Well, see, this is why we have a political problem with it this time, because normally you got some of theirs at some of each side, but 10 years ago, the Democrats swept.
Got it.
So all 5 at the state level are in fact Democrats.
Okay. But that's good, that's the reason.
That's the reason. Now, where it particularly matters is Commonwealth Court. We have an unusual court in this state. Commonwealth is parallel to Superior and they both feed to Supreme. Commonwealth, so if you don't like your results at the county level and you want to appeal, if it's family law, it's going to go to Superior, busiest court in the nation. If it's against a governmental unit, it goes to Commonwealth, or that's the first court if you want to sue on things like voting rights. That court has always been very conservative. And that has led to some of the unfortunate rulings that we've seen on voting rights. So it's one to really keep your eye on. But okay, we've come this far into that kind of a conversation. You know why they really want to kick our judges out? Trump filed more lawsuits in this state than any state in the country. He lost every one of them. That's the driving issue. Anybody else? Thank you for anything you can do to make people aware that we really do, it's very important to vote in the judicial elections this year.
Thank you.
No. I just made them. No, really, I just made them nice things. There you go. Thank you. You're right. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
So for anybody who doesn't know me, I'm Kat. I actually just stepped up as the co-chair of the AAUW book sale. So I've been affiliated with the AAUW for about 20 years, but I've been a member for about a month. So I'm not going to be able to answer a lot of questions about like the general public policy, things that have been going on the way that I can. But I have some other things that I've been working with, some other organizations that I've been working with to encourage people to get out and vote. And the one I want to focus on today is one that is specifically focused on the PA Supreme Court elections. But I do have some other resources in here.
Could you speak up a little bit?
Oh, sorry.
I can't hear you, and I'm all the way up here.
We have.
Thank you.
Tap the top and see if it's on.
Yes, it is on.
Oh.
Hello.
Get one a little
Hello.
from your friends.
Hello.
You have to set the
Please set the volume.
Yeah.
Individual one. Come on, it's not mute. Hello. Red light. Hello. Hello.
You got it, boy.
Thank you.
There you go. Just give me your cues.
Okay.
Just take 1 second. Just one really just said that. Basically, I don't know if everybody knows from the state AAUW, we don't vote for a specific candidate. Okay, we vote for issues. And I just wanted to make that clear because it's important that everyone knows that. We're supposed to be bipartisan. Okay, so if that didn't come through earlier, we should have said that. But thank you so much, everyone, for being here today.
Yeah, and I'll talk about that a little bit too. So I guess you didn't hear the first part. I'm Kat. I'm going to be talking about
It's not turned on.
Mike, a little closer.
closer.
That's it,
like a
lollipop.
All right, I can hear myself. It's a little weird. But I'll be talking about some things we can do to encourage people to get out and vote. If you want to go to the next one, because that's actually what I wanted to talk about with some of this letter writing stuff. Anything that's affiliated with the AAUW, anything that we're doing in official AAUW capacity for a meeting like this, has to be nonpartisan. So we can't say, vote for this candidate, vote for this political party. What we can do is talk about the issues, especially issues that are related to AAUW's main mission. So the first thing I wanted to talk about, and I brought some letters we can work on today if there's still time, is Vote Forward. So this is a resource where you can go through, if you decide that you want to do this in your free time, You can sign up through Vote Forward, you can make an account, and if. I don't know. Yeah, it died. Okay, it came back. I do have all of this linked through the PowerPoint, so if somebody wants this, then you can just click on it and go right to the website, let me know, and I can email it to you. But you can go and create an account on Vote Forward if you'd like. And when you do, it lets you select the various campaigns that they're doing right now. And one of the reasons that I'm talking about this one is that it's the only one that I'm aware of that's actually focusing on the PA Supreme Court elections. So for anything, it's just this particular one, it's going in and out, we'll see. Oh, maybe that's how, maybe that's its power level. Okay, no.
Even 1, 2, or 3, I think.
Okay. Oh, so the
Not chargeable batteries of these ones.
Fresh battery. Yes.
Oh, this is Mary Dupuy. Are you hearing me?
Yes.
Yes.
One thing I think we should bring forward in response to what we just heard about how we vote. We do not vote for parties, and we don't talk about parties in AAUW. We do, on the other, talk about candidates. We talk about the people and what they stand for and what they want to do, and leave it up to the people who are reading our materials or hearing us to decide which one they might want to vote for. But I think it's really important to know that while we do not endorse candidates, we certainly don't endorse parties. We do in fact recognize that the people that are running are real people and they need to be evaluated as real people.
Everyone could hear that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
We agree.
Question.
Are you saying that we could do something that says, you know, these are the people, go do your own research, we can list the names, go do your own research, give a link to a place like the bar association or something?
And we can look at the people who speak for them and don't. Diane and I have been doing this now for something over 20 years. If you've been reading the newsletters, when it comes to time for an election, we list all of the candidates. We never leave out people regardless of party, but we do talk about what they stand for, what they say, who they're involved with, and in the extent to which that's important to what we're talking about, to the issues that we're talking about.
Right, and that's in this scenario where you're able to go through and list everybody and say, you know, here's who exists, and then, you know, here's what they're standing for and what they're doing. Because of the nature of the letter writing, that's not something we're able to do through here, which is why I'm saying you can't say vote for retention, right, for the nonpartisan letters. There are options if you're doing this not in an AAUW setting where you can go through like more partisan letters, but because we're not able to list out every single candidate, we have to stick to the messaging. So that's why with this, for everything that I've brought today, it's going to be for the social campaigns rather than the political campaigns because of the nature of AAUW. But if you're doing this on your own time, you know, that's obviously up to you.
What do you mean by social campaign?
Social campaign, well, actually, I think if you go next one, skip one, skip that one. So instead of, I just wrote up basically a sample letter that you could put here. So instead of saying, go vote for retention judges, you could say, hey, we're gonna have this election in November. Here's what's at stake, right? So you're not necessarily saying a specific person, but you are talking about the issues that are at stake and kind of what you're standing for. So in this particular format, the vote forward letters, you're saying why you vote and what you're invested in. So that might mean saying something like, I have a grandchild who's trans, right? Like that's not a partisan issue in the sense of it being a political issue, but that's something that that's something that's personal to your life that you might encourage people to go out and think about those social issues when they're voting and think about what those candidates that they're voting for support rather than just showing up at the ballot and just filling in some bubbles. right? One of the things that I do with these letters, I talk about, education, right? That's something that's a big issue, and obviously that's something that is partisan, but you're not saying vote for this person because they supported this particular thing, but you can talk about why it's important to you that, education is being funded in Pennsylvania. By saying you're a member of the AAUW with this, you can talk about the different issues that are associated with the AAUW's mission. So that's what I'm saying, it's a social campaign rather than a partisan political campaign.
Could you kind of read it for us, just to give us an idea?
Okay, so for this one, each of the letters has the specific person you'll be addressing the letter to, so you can write the person's name in. For this example, I wrote, I vote because I'm a member of my local AAUW branch, and I want my elected representatives to value the things I care about. Our state Supreme Court reviews cases pertaining to issues like healthcare access, environmental protection, and reproductive rights. As a lifelong resident of Pennsylvania, I vote because I'm invested in my community. So you're still talking about things that are personal to you and the issues that motivate you to show up at the ballot box, to show up at the, to vote. But you're not asking them to take a specific action or vote for a specific individual or party.
What is the purpose or the gist of this letter? I mean, what is the goal of this?
So-
I'm not sure what-
So you're basically encouraging most of these letters, so when you sign up for them, you get a list of individuals to mail to. And most of those people are people who have historically voted in presidential elections, but don't necessarily show up during off years. So this in particular, it's not even a midterm. It's a really, like, a lot of people aren't even aware that there's anything to vote for in 2025. Right, so you're encouraging people, I don't have the whole letter printed out because it is a little bit different depending on where everyone lives, but it will say, here's what's happening in your specific county, here's who you can vote for, here's a phone number you can call, or sometimes a QR code you can scan to learn more about what's on the ballot for this particular year. Does that?
And these are block cold letters, these are not people you know,
Right.
so it doesn't matter who you are.
Yes. Right, so they'll give you a list, and I think what they've generally done for the political ones is they have people, I think it's generally left leaning. So I think for the political ones, you're usually writing to people who have voted, or like a registered Democrat, for example, and saying, hey, show up and vote in this off year, where it's a lot of the nonpartisan ones, I believe, go to people who are maybe not registered with a political party, and you're just encouraging them to actually show up. Maybe they voted one time and they haven't showed up in a few years. That's usually where their list comes from for this particular one.
So is there any result tracking in any of this?
Yeah, so I don't have one specifically for Vote Forward, but at the end of the slideshow, I did include a link if that's something people want to look into. That writing the handwritten letters specifically, as opposed to, you print out a sticker and stick it on a postcard. Handwritten letters and handwritten postcards actually do a lot to encourage people to show up, in part because it's not like a paid campaign, right? It's an individual talking about why they're getting out. And that's one of the reasons that they do a lot of this, like, nonpartisan, is it encourages people to think about what's at stake for them rather than going, vote for Connor Lamb, vote for whoever, right? It's not pushing somebody to do something specific, it's encouraging them to think about what they have at stake. And so there is an article about that I included at the end.
Thank you.
Did you have a?
So this is a get out the vote campaign.
Yes. Yeah, this particular one is exclusively, if you're doing the social one, is exclusively encouraging people to vote and be aware that there's election happening right now. Any other questions at the moment? Okay, I guess I probably won't go back because mostly what this talks about, if people want to do it, I can send a slideshow. Mostly it talks about how you can get those letters. And since we're not going to be doing that right here, if you would like that information, I can send it to you. Another one that is an option people could do in the future, this is mostly focusing on midterms, but it's postcards to voters. One of the things that I like with them is that they actually do a Zoom explanation of what their specific campaign is trying to do. So they will walk you through everything before they actually give you addresses. So this is something you can look into. I didn't put the full link here because it's super long. But you can, if you want this, you can click on it, or you can go through People Power United and sign up for one of their Zoom sessions, and they'll get you set up. I think they do that once or twice a month, depending on what's happening at that moment. And another one that does tend to be a little bit more partisan, although right now, postcards to voters is just encouraging people, and I think it's specifically Orange County, Florida right now, just basically saying, hey, it's time to renew your vote by mail, right? So sometimes they do more partisan ones. This may not be entirely appropriate for like an AAUW event setting, but this is another good one if this is something that you're interested in doing, and they tend to be focused on either specific races or specific counties right at that exact time, whereas some of the other ones are a little more general. Does anyone have any questions about the letter writing portion of it?
Kat, so the handwritten has more impact. Is there any, do letters have more impact than postcards, or is there anything else defining that?
That, I don't have any specific resources on that. I mean, that's something I've been interested in, because with a postcard, you can't not see what it's about, whereas a letter you could. But, but I do have personal anecdotal evidence
Okay.
of people, when you see a letter that's clearly a political advertisement and it's just like printed out, right? You see it, you know what it is in the recycling, hopefully, right? But I've seen several people might be like, oh, this is a handwritten letter, so it's from a person. And you may not recognize the name, but you might go, okay, who's this from? And again, then you're seeing somebody's direct message. So I don't know about letters versus postcards. One of the reasons that I specifically suggested vote forward is because, as far as I know, they're the only ones that are focusing on the PA Supreme Court elections right now. And I personally feel better about writing to PA voters than people in Florida, just because of where I live and my understanding of the things that are at stake and the political landscape.
Your fourth paragraph there on that page, writing letters directly about individual issues can make a difference too. I've been taught in workshops and I've led letters to the editor and postcard things and all that kind of stuff. And we were taught that when you send things USPS, they get stalled. They get stalled because, particularly if you're sending them to Washington, because they all have to be searched for powder and all that kind of stuff.
Gotcha.
That the number one way to get through to your representative is to call them.
That's my next slide.
Okay.
But one of the reasons that I did want to focus a little bit on contacting representatives directly is that something that as the AAUW we can do, and we don't have to be like cautious about, what the message is, because we're talking about the issues directly. So these were a couple other possible things people could look into. One of the things I want to focus on real quick is the AAUW's 2-minute activist page, where they have a couple things of just like write a letter, make this phone call, and it's very concrete and it's very well explained, and you do it and then you're done, and then it's great. But as far as phone calls, if you want to go to the next one, this is a resource that I've been using with a couple of my friends that I've kind of gotten them to use as well. It's called 5 Calls. It's on your phone or on a computer, depending on what you're more comfortable using. And it will give you a list of all of the issues, all the different bills that are being voted on, all of the different issues that are being talked about. It's not just House and Senate, it's also Dave Sunday, our Attorney General. There are a couple things that we've, had to call him about. So it'll tell you, you say vote, it's voting on House bill, whatever. And then you click on it and it will tell you what that is, what it means in language that isn't pure legalese. And then tell you who to contact about it. So depending on maybe where it is in the voting process or who is directly responsible for it, it'll tell you who to call. It'll give you literally push the button and it calls them. And it will give you a little script of what you could say, because I'm not somebody who's necessarily great at making a phone call and knowing exactly what to say when I get there. I kind of wander around a little bit. So I really appreciate this because it tells you exactly what information you need to convey. And if you get, for example, voicemail, there are certain things you need to say, have your call counted. When you're talking about this being helpful, one example of this with the Big Beautiful Bill, there was a clause in there at one point when it first passed the House that said states can't regulate AI for 10 years. And people got really mad about that. And they called the representatives, and some of the representatives said, oh, I didn't actually read the bill, so I didn't realize that was in there. And by the time it actually passed, that clause had been taken out. So I know sometimes it, at least personally, it feels like, you're calling, you're writing letters and not necessarily making a huge impact, but there are things that are changing when they're hearing from people, and calling is a direct way to do it unless they have figured out how to make it so that you can't leave a message, which several of our representatives have done. But,
Can I make,
Yeah.
I make a comment here? One of the ways around the issues that you just brought up, that is to say, don't send anything to Washington DC because it gets this things happen to it before it gets to the person you want it to see. But I always send my letters to their local address of the office here in Center County, which you can get out of the phone book or any other way. And I send it directly to the senator or representative, in this case, representative who I'm interested in contacting, because they're much more likely to get the actual message that way than if you send it to their official Washington address.
Yeah, that, so basically, I just don't know if everybody can hear that, but
So
say,
if you come to the microphone against.
Oh, okay.
Every night.
okay, I'll give it a shot. I'm like making eye contact with the little owl over here. Basically what she was saying is that, if sending letters to local offices rather than directly to Washington DC can be more effective, and we've actually seen that with some of the phone calls, like I was calling some of my representatives and they were quite literally, it would automatically put you on hold and then hang up on you, or they will let the voicemail build up to the point where they say, oh, we can't accept any more messages. And as you can see with this one, and there are more offices for the Fetterman and McCormick. If you find that you're calling like the main one and nobody's answering, or the voicemail's full or whatever, calling one of the local offices frequently means you can at the very least leave a message. So in both cases, trying to contact either local or at one point I was going, I can't even get through the local one. Someone said, yeah, but for the Oil City office, there's nothing, so you can leave messages for Oil City, even if you've got like 5 or 6 numbers, just kind of keep going until you can get something. And that's something that the app provides as well, which I otherwise would have to go through every page and try to find. So, and my friend suggested that I give you the life hack of, if you don't want to actually talk to someone, or if you know that you're just going to get kind of blown off, calling on weekends or evenings, you can still leave a voicemail, so it still gets counted, but then you don't necessarily have to. I've had some kind of weird interactions with some of the staffers, so. Does anyone have any questions about that part? Okay, well, that's what I got. And I specifically wanted to share things that I've worked with before. I know that there are other resources, but these are all things that I've done. So if you do have any more questions about them specifically, hopefully I can answer them. I did also bring some stuff if you want to write letters tonight. I have things where we can do letters to voters like I talked about with Vote Forward. And I also have some just blank cards if you would like to write a strongly worded letter to any of our representatives.
Do we have to, get the app, like, or you have the names of where it's gone, or we just gonna write postcard and then take it?
For everything, I've got the resources that we're gonna do tonight. If we're writing a letter to a voter, I have to double check it just because I have to send it through, I have to approve that it really did get written and then send it out. And for a lot of these letters, you have to send them in a certain window. And some of them go kind of late. When I was thinking about what you were talking about with, I try not to send them at the end of the window, because especially things that are clearly political can just kind of get lost for a few days. And I've had that in terms of some of the things that I've ordered for myself to do this. I've had it mysteriously disappear for 5 or 6 days before it shows up, so.
How do you find out if it's shown up?
For the things that I've ordered, like I ordered postcards so that I could do, and it's like politicalpostcards.com or whatever, and then suddenly I'm like, oh, it's weird that took 5 days longer than the, maximum shipping. So I assume for postcards and things too, I always try to send them out sooner so that people are more likely to get them in time. Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Related, but, well, related adjacently, one of the ways that
we vote most convincingly is with our dollars, of course. So there's another app and website called Goods Unite Us. And if you go there, you can look up a company by its name and find out to whom they have donated in past elections and whether or not they support stopping corporate funding for elections. So if those are things you're interested in and want to make sure the companies you're supporting support the things you support, that's a good one too.
Is it possible for us to, instead of sending the slides to people, is it possible
It's like lunch.
to put it on a sheet of paper and leave it for people? that
Yeah.
might- Yeah, if you could make a list of where to send, these different apps, so that we could leave it for anyone that's interested.
Oh,
I could bring, yeah, I could bring it by, if you do it, if you, like all the apps that you mentioned. On a sheet of paper, I could bring it by here tomorrow for anybody that might be interested, instead of having to send them the slides.
Okay.
Would anybody be interested in that?
Are you gonna print them to this room?
Yeah, not this room, I'll just leave it downstairs, we can.
Okay.
Your slides are beautiful, like.
thanks, I took them from Canva.
Any suggestions for hand exercises? I used to be able to write for hours.
Well, I used to work in lab manufacturing, so we have a little sheet of like, you have to do this.
It's
and do-
don't, but I find I did it twice, and I just. It's messier and messier.
For some of them, the People Power United one, they have said, because they have a lot of people that send out a lot of postcards, and so they do say you can, print out a sticker or something, or print on the card itself, and then just handwrite the addresses. But a few of the others say, at that point, you're kind of defeating the purpose of the handwritten part, so it kind of depends, but.
All right, thank you. Yeah, time. If anybody wants to join us.
Yes.
2 minutes, because I'm brand new to AAUW meetings, and I'm gonna guess some of the other Foxdale people here are too. And if you could give me like a mission, an elevator speech of what the mission is of AAUW, and is it all political? I mean, I know you have the book sale and you have the scholarships and everything, but is there anything else you all do? Yes, that is a beautiful question, and again, we were so, because this is the only one, we're gonna have more branch meetings here the third Thursday of every month. And because this was only 1 hour, when Diane spoke to me, she said she had to leave and everything else, I just kind of made it short, but you're absolutely right. I should have introduced, but you're correct, and I just didn't wanna take up more time, because I know that Kat worked so hard on the slides, and I didn't wanna eat up a lot of her time. But you're right, my name is Dr. Colleen Prevocore, I am the president this year of AUW. And basically what we stand for issues affecting women and girls. And in every aspect of education, political and advocacy, so we do, and when we do the fundraiser, we do it for a lot of the community grants that we give out. For scholarships for women to continue their education. This is why the AAUW was founded on University of Women. And so this is basically our goal. And so everything that we do touches on the mission. We do a lot of advocacy work because we want to help our mission. I was also on the school board, and we're getting a lot of cuts to that. And in the college area too, they're losing a lot of funding. So we are trying to educate people that it is important to vote, because we may want all these things, but if we don't have some of these candidates that agrees with what we stand for, then we're not doing anything. So this is why advocacy is such an important part. If we wanted to continue helping what we do in the community, if we want to continue with our mission of empowering women and girls. In a nutshell, I don't know if Connie, you're very welcome. I don't know if you wanted to add anything else.
Well, Carlene touched on, I think, some of the most important points.
I think probably most of you know about our book sale. And actually, raise your hand if you haven't.
Oh.
And several of us here do volunteer there. That event is a wonderful way for us to raise money that stays in this community. And we do fund a lot of grants that help women and girls, especially in the area of STEM. But also other groups that help them in terms of literacy and health and areas like that. And then I think this past year, our sale raised netted after expenses over $160,000. It's the largest book sale in the country, used book sale. And as I said, that money stays right here in our community, and we really value the book donations that some of you make to our workshop that's open right now. But we're an organization that's interested in equity in all forms, whether it's public education is an excellent example, pay equity, reproductive rights. Those are some of the issues that we're most interested in.
Yeah, pay equity is an important issue because it's, at least it passed the House this year, but we don't know if it's gonna pass the Senate. So we have a lot of these issues, pay equity and the medical leave act is another one that we're looking forward to for people that are sick or they're taking care of elderly parents that's very sick or their adoption. We don't have that in this state. So these are the things that are important that's being voted on. And we have to pay attention to these issues.
And some people, there is a misnomer about the name of our organization. You don't have to, we are the American Association of University Women, but it has nothing strictly speaking to do with having been worked at the university. So this is nothing like that, although at this time, we do require that women have an undergraduate degree.
And also we have, there's no, men could also join.
Yeah.
As long as it's the men that support the women.
Yeah.
We found out as one joint.
Oh, I have membership forms. I will never, so I will give it to you if you would want to
I
join.
would like to join.
We have several male members now.
Yeah.
And we have a lot of activities coming up, and I am so glad that we're doing our branch meetings here. Because we found out that we have a lot of our members that are here, and we would like for them to be involved.
And our programs are mission-based.
Yes.
I mean, we certainly are developing a sort of social arm too, but for the most part, our programs are mission-based, like
Like the
this
book
one.
clubs the books that we read also are very powerful. So we are reading the Briar Club, by Kate Quinn. And this is about these women that takes place in 1950s, and they find themselves in this apartment house. And the woman that runs it, she's very strict, and if you're not married or whatever, you're not supposed to stay there, but these women find a way to be there. What's interesting about this book that I love is that each of the characters have their own secret reason why they're there. And I know that with a group of women, you could definitely relate to one or the other one. And so when we have this discussion, it's so interesting to me who people say that they relate more to. And so there's one of them that had a baby and she thought everything was gonna be so perfect and everything else. And around that time, my daughter, I just had my first granddaughter who's 8 months old. And my daughter is one of these planners that thinks that her babies, and this woman reminded me so much of my daughter. And I just had to laugh because babies don't come with rule books and they do their own thing. They never read it. So anyway, that's one of the books that we're reading. And so we do try, even the books that we read for our book club, we have a diversity book club and we have a social book club. And we still have, even though these are social events, but I want to continue the mission. So the next thing that we're gonna have here is Sinners. And that's another interesting part of a movie. It's a movie, but we're gonna have a really in-depth discussion about it. And a Reverend Kevin is going to be talking about it September 18th. So we'll get more information about that. And so Kat, I don't want to take up a lot of your time. If you want to give us some postcards and we could start.
Okay, well, I've got some letters and I've got some envelopes and stuff.
Zoom participants, I'm gonna shut you off right now. If you want more letter writing resources, we'll make sure to send them out afterwards. Thanks.
Oh, yeah.